All right, so now we're going to talk about finding the area of some of the other basic shapes. So first thing is on this page, you see you have a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a triangle, okay? So first thing I'm just going to have us do is write the formulas down, okay? And then we'll take it one by one and find the area of the shapes given, okay? So the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. So you do this times this. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you found that before. You could also write it like length times width, because that means the same thing. A parallelogram is pretty much just like a tilted rectangle, really. So just kind of like a slanted rectangle. So its area works the same way, except instead of length and width, we talk about it as base times height. So we talk about it as the base times the height of the shape. Okay, which if you think about it, the length is the base and the width of a rectangle is its height. So it's pretty much saying the same thing, but uses different letters as to not confuse you. Whereas a triangle is going to be using similar letters as the parallelogram, except that its area works a little differently. It is base times height, but instead of the full base times height, it's half. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So base times height and then times 1/2 is what the area is. Okay, so now let's look at these each individually. Okay, so let's look at the area of a rectangle. So on the first line, we always write our formula. So bringing that down, area equals length times width, where we said our length was this bottom number. So this is my length. And my width was this one coming up top, equals my width. So I always label on my shape what my length, my width, my base, or my height is, or whatever. So that way I know that, okay, I labeled them properly, and these go in this specific order, okay? So we have area equals our length times our width. We said our length was 10.5 times our width of 8. So now this is when we plug it in. What is 10.5 times 8? When you plug that into your calculator, hopefully you get 84. And then again, we use our units, inches, and because it's the area, it's squared. Okay, so that's how we find the area of a rectangle. Hopefully you've done that before. So again, formula, found which one was which, and then plugged it in. Okay, so same thing works for all of these. This is pretty much what we're going to do for all of them. Parallelogram, area is base times height. Okay, the base is that bottom. Base is that bottom. So this is my base. Now, our rectangle had that our width was that one on the outside. So you would think your height would be this one. But that's not the case. That's extra information. That 2 feet is there to throw you off because that's not the actual height of the parallelogram. The actual height is this dotted line here. This is your height, okay? And again, we know that because the shape above shows us just how it is. That dotted line is my height. Okay, so now let's plug these values in. So my area is my base, which is 5, times my height, which is 3.5. Okay, so now plug that in your calculator, 5 times 3.5. And hopefully you get 17.5. Make sure you label our units, feet, and then again it's area, so it's squared. All right, let's look at the triangle. So the area of a triangle is area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, let's label. The bottom of your triangle is your base. Bottom of the triangle is your base. The height is that one that comes right down from the top. So this 1.5 is your height. And just like before in the parallelogram, we have this extra number here. That's just the length of the outside. That's just extra information. All right, so now let's plug in our base and our height. So we have area equals 1/2. Base is 12. Height is 1.5. So now let's plug that into our calculator. 1/2 times 12 times 1.5. And when you do that, hopefully you get that your area is 9. And then we label meters squared. Okay, so we've just found the area of our 3 basic shapes. Okay, so let's go to ones a little bit more tricky. All right, so we have here a square, a trapezoid, and a circle. So a square is, hopefully you know, is pretty basic. It works really similar to a rectangle, except we use just kind of different formula here. It's that your area is equal to your sides squared. Remember what's special about a square is that all the sides are equal. So instead of saying side times side, which is what it is, we just write side squared, okay? The area of a trapezoid is a little bit more complex than all of the other ones. Because if you look at a trapezoid, and if you really think about it, it's like 2 triangles and a rectangle together, okay? So it's a couple of different things mashed together. So our formula is going to be a little bit tricky here, okay? So our formula is kind of both of those formulas together. So it's area 1/2, our height, times, if you notice, there's a top base and a lower base. So we do base 1 plus base 2. Okay, so that's our whole formula. 1/2 times height times your base 1 plus your base 2. Okay, and hopefully you remember your area of a circle. This has radius here, so I'm just going to write the radius version, which is area equals pi r squared. But I'm going to write the diameter one too, just for safekeeping, so you have it written multiple times. So it's 1/4 times pi times diameter squared. Okay. So now that we have gone over these, let's dive in a little bit more. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit more. So looking at this first one, the square, we said that the formula was area equals side squared. Again, a side is just the outside, of our thing. And remember, a square, all of the sides are the same. So all of the sides are 5. So we're going to plug in 5 into the formula. So what's 5 squared, or 5 times 5? Our area for this square is 25. Now, are there any units written here? Do we see any inches, centimeters, feet, any of that? Well, hopefully you said no, because I don't for the square. So we have to put something there. We have to have some type of units. So we simply, if we don't know, we write units squared. So we write the word units, and then we square that, because we don't know if it's meters, centimeters, or feet, or yards, or whatever it is. We don't know, so we write units there. Okay, let's go to the little one that's a little bit harder. Okay, so let's first start by writing our formula. Area equals 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. All right, first things first. Our base 1 is our bottom base. Just like before, when you think about base, the bottom is your base 1. Then our base 2 is our other base, or our top half of our trapezoid, which is this top half. So this is our base 2. And then our height. Our height is from the top to the bottom. Okay, just like with triangles or the parallelograms, this is our height inside the parallelogram or the trapezoid. That's our height. This 5 over here, that's just there to confuse you. They want you to get confused. So that's just extra information. Okay, so we have all of these. Let's plug this into the formula. Area equals 1/2 height. My height is 4 times my base 1, which is 8, plus my base 2, which is 5. So let's plug this in. And you have to plug it in exactly how you saw it. You have to add your base 1 and your base 2. So my calculator, I'm going to type it in exactly how I see it. 1/2 times 4 times parentheses 8 plus 5 end parentheses. So make sure these are in the parentheses on your calculator, or it won't add it or multiply it correctly. Okay? So if you did it right, if you plugged it into your calculator correctly, you should have gotten 26. Now again, do we have any units here? Is there inches, meters, any of that? No, so we're going to use units squared. All right, let's do this last one. This should be easy dubs, so I'm going to go quick through it because this was our last section. Area, because it's our radius, is pi r squared. Okay, area equals pi. Our radius is 5 squared. So now we're doing pi times 5 squared, which should give me 78.5. This one has units, meters squared. Okay, so hopefully you use this formula sheet to really help you work through a couple of these next examples.